do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show. After an incredible Indiana Pacers game last night, winning game one on the road against the New York Knickerbockers. And I've got so many thoughts on that game. Tony East, he's going to join the show at 11, and we're going to talk about it. He was there. He was in the Garden. He got to see it all unfold, the third insane comeback from the Indiana Pacers. But I can't start there today because Colts owner Jimmy Irsay passed away yesterday at the age of 65 years old. Very surprising. I don't think anyone really saw it coming. And it's sad. It is. I'll be honest. Like I didn't know Jim Irsay in any way, shape, or form. I never met him. But I've heard a lot of stories about him. And I think my favorite one is one that Booger McFarland told a couple of years ago on a podcast that I like to listen to. And Booger McFarland was on the Indianapolis Colts team that won the Super Bowl against the Bears. And after they won the AFC title game that year, Jim Irsay called Booger into his office and asked a very simple question. Booger, you've played in the Super Bowl before. What do I need to know so that we can be absolutely prepared in every sense of the word for the Super Bowl? Because we got a lot of guys in this locker room who've never played in the Super Bowl before. And then obviously Booger McFarland, tells Jim Irsay, this is what all we need to be prepared and ready for. And Jim Irsay then just went and did everything that Booger McFarland said. Spared no expense. And we live in a very interesting time when it comes to the people who own professional sports teams. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have their hands in other things. Like Steve Ballmer, he's the CEO of Microsoft. So while he's very involved with the Clippers and he wants to win, his main focus is Microsoft. Mark Cuban, when he owned the Dallas Mavericks, he was very involved with, a million different businesses that he had invested in. The new owners of the Dallas Mavericks are very invested in casinos in Las Vegas. And I think Jim Irsay was, part of why he was such a special owner. I think part of why Colts fans loved him so much was he didn't appear to have his hand in many other businesses. He was all about the Colts. And I think that's really all that any fan base wants from their owner. I think fan bases want to feel like their owner cares about the product on the field as much as they do. And there are owners all across sports. Just look at teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates who don't care about the product on the field. And they're all about the bottom line. How do we maximize? How do we make as much money as possible? And Jim Irsay was not that kind of owner. He wasn't. He deeply cared about the Colts. He deeply cared about the community. I read so many stories on Twitter after the passing of Jim Irsay yesterday about how he would give money to people. And I know that he, amidst all of his drug issues, I know that he started a foundation to kind of help himself get help, but also to help other people. And I think he was a very kind-hearted man who had his flaws, but who doesn't have flaws? We all do. And he loved the city. He loved the Indianapolis Colts. He's the youngest general manager in the history of the NFL, running the Indianapolis Colts at the age of 24 years old. And I think that when you become entrenched in something, having a job like that just puts you in a place where you're going to care for the rest of your life. I believe he did it until he was 37. So for 13 years, he was the general manager. And that's a long time to do something. And I think when you do something that important for an organization for that long, it's hard not to care about that organization for the rest of your life. And Jim Irsay cared about the Colts as much as any owner has ever cared about the sports franchise that they own. He will be missed. He was loved around the city, and he wanted to win. And I think that that's pretty awesome. And like I said, I think that that's all that people can ask for from their sports team's owner. So rest in peace to Jim Irsay. If you have any stories about Jim Irsay and you want to share them, you can tweet at me on Twitter at _ Jonathan Smith. You can head over to YouTube, Indie Sports Ticket. You can watch the live stream there, and feel free to throw that story in the chat. I would love to hear them because it seemed like Jim Irsay was someone who was very involved, not only with the Colts but also with the Indianapolis Colts community. Now, his final tweet, came yesterday, 7 hours before he passed, and it was about the Indiana Pacers. Go Pacers. Good luck to Herb, the entire Pacers organization, and our city. And he probably scheduled that tweet. That was kind of my first thought. And man, the Pacers delivered last night. Teams up by 14 points or more in the final 2 minutes and 50 seconds of a playoff fourth quarter or overtime are now 977-1 after last night, because the Aaron Nesmith game happened last night. The Pacers pulled off their third improbable comeback of these 2025 NBA playoffs. They're up 1-0 after not playing a good game. The defense to start was horrendous. The offense was good all game. They didn't rebound very well in that first half. They didn't pick up loose balls in that first half. And in the second half, things didn't look very good for them either. But Aaron Nesmith, you got to start with that guy whenever you talk about this game. So Jalen Brunson goes to the bench for the Knicks with 5 fouls with just over 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And the Knicks responded with a 14-0 run. Like when he went to the bench, the Pacers were down like 3-2. They were down by 2. I'm like, here we go. Pacers run incoming. And then, the Knicks show why. You go out and you make trades for Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns. They really shouldered the load offensively with Brunson on the bench with those 5 fouls. And so the Knicks go on this 14-0 run. And when that happened, I was like, this game is over. The Knicks were up by 16. There's 7 minutes left. The Pacers weren't guarding anybody. They weren't scoring. And you knew that Jalen Brunson was going to come back in at some point. And when he did, he was going to score because he's Jalen Brunson. And the Pacers didn't stop him all night. I mean, the dude had 43 points on 15 of 25 shooting. He got whatever he wanted. And so I'm just sitting there. I'm at home. I'm on my couch. And I'm just like, I'm going to leave it on. But I'm going to start prepping for my show tomorrow. And because, when the Pacers are down big in the fourth quarter, they've just kind of reached a point where you have to leave it on because they do things like what they did last night. And I'm so glad that I left it on and I got to witness the dog that is Aaron Nesmith, because he is a dog in every sense of the word. Every team in the NBA wants a player on their roster like Aaron Nesmith, just a dude who is absolutely relentless and just doesn't stop. He was 6 of 7 from 3 in the fourth quarter. He hit 6 threes in a row. He missed his first 3-point attempt of the fourth quarter with like just under 10 minutes left. And then in the final 4 minutes and 45 seconds, he hit 6 threes. He's the only player in the history of the NBA playoffs to score 20 points in a 5-minute stretch. That's what he did. 6 threes, 2 free throws. He scored 20 points in a 5-minute stretch. It's absolutely insane. And some other guys scored in there as well. Like Halliburton hit a 3. Obi Toppin had a dunk. It was all great, but just outstanding stuff from Aaron Nesmith. And he set the tone for this comeback. Here is Pacers head coach after the game talking about Aaron Nesmith getting hot late.
Aaron, the thing that put him in position to do that was Shepard going in there and giving us, 7 or 8 really strong minutes, just playing at full capacity, picking up full, all that. It allowed Aaron a chance to rest a little bit. So he came back in the game fresh, and he had his legs. And I don't know how many he made down the stretch. Seemed like it was 5 or 6 or 7, 6. They were all very much needed. And look, NBA players are amazing. I mean, these guys get on a roll and they do amazing things. And so, Brunson makes stuff like this look routine. Aaron got hot certainly at the right time.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Aaron Nesmith getting hot late, and he's exactly right. NBA players are amazing, and Aaron Nesmith was every bit of amazing in those final, in those final 5 minutes there. Aaron Nesmith is the first player in the history of the NBA to make 6 3-point field goals in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. Only 6 other players have made 6 threes in a quarter of a playoff game. Antoine Walker in Boston versus Philly back in 2002. Damian Lillard did it in 2021 in the bubble. Was that the bubble? I think it was the bubble against Denver. Devin Booker did it in 2021 against the Lakers. Michael Porter Jr. did it against, Portland in that same series, June 3rd, 2021. Bogdan Bogdanović did it for Utah back in 2021. Jeez, man, 2021 was just the year of guys getting hot from 3. And then Steph Curry did it against Boston in the NBA Finals back in 2022. So when you're down 14 with 2 minutes and 35 seconds left, everyone knows that the only way that you're going to come back is if someone gets hot. And Aaron Nesmith was certified scalding when we got to that point. He hit 3 straight threes from the 51-second mark to the 22-second mark. That is 29 seconds. In that stretch, the Knicks lead went from 6 down to 2. And the pressure was on from that moment forward. Because if you're the Pacers making that push and you fall short, people say, you know what? Valiant effort. If they'd rebounded and defended a little bit better in that first half, then they probably win that game. They'll regroup for game 2. They got a lot of stuff to learn from. But what resiliency from this Pacers team? And if you're the Knicks, it's like we cannot blow a 16-point lead in the final 7 minutes of this fourth quarter. We can't blow a 9-point lead with 51 seconds left. Karl-Anthony Towns misses a free throw 8 seconds after that third straight 3 from Aaron Nesmith. Pacers come down. They run a play for Nesmith. He takes a dribble. He gets fouled by OG Anunoby. Aaron Nesmith makes both free throws. OG Anunoby then gets fouled. He makes 1 free throw, misses the first free throw, makes the second, and all of a sudden the Pacers are down 2 with 7.2 seconds left to go. And it's like, oh man, they might do it again. And I'm standing. I am a very chill guy whenever I watch any sporting event. If I watch it with other people, I think it takes people off guard because they know that I do a sports radio show, and I think people just kind of expect me to talk through games. That is not what I do. I sit there, I shut up, I have my notepad, and I write stuff down. That's what it is. And so I did that for the first 47 minutes and 53 seconds. But those final 7 seconds was Tyrese Halliburton is bringing the ball at the floor. I stood up. And they kind of get what they want. It's Tyrese Halliburton on Mitchell Robinson, and he goes to the rim, and then he pulls it back out. I'm like, oh, no, that's not good. He is sprinting backwards towards the three-point line, does a 180, fall away 3, foot on the line, 2-point shot, not a 3. And it hits the back of the rim, bounces straight into the air, up like shot clock level, and just falls straight back down. I mean, just an incredible shot. Here is Tyrese Halliburton talking about that game-tying shot.
I knew I'm like, it's going in. It just felt like it got stuck up there, though, And honestly, when it, went in, I was like, I thought my eyes might have been deceiving me in the moment. But it felt good when it left my hand. So, I thought it was going to go in. And, the ball felt like it was up there for eternity. But, man, just a special moment.
Tyrese Halliburton right there talking about that game-tying shot that was Kawhi Leonard-esque. I don't know if you remember that shot, second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs back in 2019, the year that Pascal Siakam won a title. Kawhi Leonard hits this fall-away three out of bounds that hits the rim a million times and then went in. Had the same kind of feel. It felt like that ball was in the air for an eternity, as Tyrese Halliburton said. Just what a bounce. But that's what happens when you stay in it. I texted my buddy Matt Murphy when the game was over, and he called the Pacers the team of destiny. I don't believe in destiny. I don't think that's a thing. I believe in hard work, and I believe in toughness. And that's what happens when you work hard and you stay in it and you're tough. The ball eventually bounces your way. It seemed like in that first half, every loose ball that went out of bounds went off the Pacers. But when you're tough and you're resilient and you keep working and you keep doing the right things and you never say die, which is that has to be the Pacers' motto in these playoffs. Eventually, the ball bounces your way, and the Pacers got a huge bounce in that spot to send it to overtime. I loved the choking celebration. I hate that it wasn't a three. That would have made it so much better. But it still fit because they ended up winning the game. The fact that Reggie Miller's there makes it all the better, and it was just amazing. This Pacers run is crazy. Game 5 against Milwaukee, that comeback was insane. I was in the building. Sadly, it was overshadowed by John Halliburton. Speaking of John Halliburton, free John Halliburton. Game 2 against the Cavaliers was even crazier. But this one takes the cake. The Pacers scored 20 points in the final 3 minutes to force overtime. Aaron Nesmith scored 20 points in the final 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Thankfully, OG Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns both missed huge free throws down the stretch. That's why the choke sign is fitting. And Aaron Nesmith got incredibly hot from 3. This run is incredible since the 1996-97 season. Teams that have trailed by 7 points or more in the final 50 seconds of the fourth quarter or overtime in the playoffs are 4 and 1,702. The Pacers have 3 of those 4 wins, and they're all this year. It's incredible. Here is Coach Carlisle after the game talking about this comeback and how the Pacers have just been able to do this multiple times now.
Well, we've had a lot of these games this year. I mean, we've probably had a dozen of them throughout the season. A lot of the games early where we were struggling were games we had to pull out. There were clutch games when we weren't playing particularly well. And, it's a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. And it's not easy. It's not easy. There's been a lot of wild swings and scores throughout the season and the playoffs. But, you certainly don't take anything like this for granted. This is very, very difficult to do, but it's a 48-minute game. And we always say, Pacer basketball is 48 minutes. And tonight it was 53 minutes.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about the Pacers and their ability to make these comebacks. Calling it a muscle is really good because that's what it is. You do it once, it's like, oh, it's cool. And then you do it again, you're like, oh, and then you keep doing it and you keep getting better at it and your confidence grows late in games. I feel like the Eastern Conference Finals last year have played a huge role in this because the Pacers were awful at closing fourth quarters against the Boston Celtics last year. They collapsed down the stretch of game 1. Game 2, they had a chance to win it late, and they turned the ball. It was bad the way that they closed games in the fourth quarter against the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And they've learned from that, and they've gotten better as a result of it. And they are now relentlessness, resiliency, and toughness personified. Like that is who this Indiana Pacers team is. It's who they've been all year. I would argue that the head of the toughness snake is Aaron Nesmith, and it's only fitting that he was the one who led this improbable comeback. Obviously, other players played big roles as well. Ben Shepherd, was big, in that 7-minute stretch that he played, just coming in and defending his butt off and just not turning the basketball over whenever he got it. And like it was just an incredible comeback. It's who this Pacers team is. And because of it, they're up 1-0 in this series. And they're going to have a chance to go up 2-0 because they didn't play very well in that game, I didn't think, last night. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes, the other guys, not named Aaron Nesmith and Tyrese Halliburton, who need to be recognized for how well they played. I'm going to run through those guys, and then the Pacers did not play well. Do not allow for this fourth quarter and overtime comeback to allow you to think that, the Pacers are fine. No, they did not play very well at all. So I'm going to talk about what the Pacers can do better going into game 2 Friday night, which is going to be spectacular. All that coming your way when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
fits in today's sports world. It's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. It is a nice little Thursday. Thank you for tuning into the show, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there and watch the stream there. Maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And as always, if you want a little bit more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. Now, the other guys in this incredible Indiana Pacers Game 1 comeback that need recognition. Obviously, Halliburton hits the shot. Aaron Nesmith gets, incredibly hot from three. But other guys contributed as well. Andrew Nembhard in overtime was incredible. He scored 7 points. He had an assist. He scored or assisted on 9 of the Indiana Pacers' 13 points in overtime. He was outstanding. He had the big deflection off Brunson that, gave the Pacers the ball back late in that fourth quarter. He hits Obi Toppin for a dunk in overtime to put them up 3 with about 15 seconds left. Aaron Nesmith is rightfully going to get a ton of attention today, and he should. He's just talked about him for 15 minutes, okay? And it probably wasn't long enough, right? He defended Jalen Brunson for the majority of the game. Aaron Nesmith scored 30 points. He was 8 of 9 from 3. He had 6 threes in the fourth quarter. He led the comeback, but Andrew Nembhard was every bit as important to the comeback as Aaron Nesmith. Because in overtime, he was just awesome. Scored 9 of the Pacers' 13 points. He was 3 of 4 from the field. The Knicks went up by 4 relatively quickly in that quarter. Oh, my boss just brought me coffee. Thank you so much. He ends up, scoring or assisting on 9 of the Pacers' 13 points. Knicks go up by 4, and then he hits a 3 in the corner. He finally gets his feet behind the line. Aaron Nesmith is the king of putting his toe on the line when he's shooting that corner 3. He finally got both of them behind the line. He hits a 3 to cut it to 1 to kind of keep the Pacers in it at the start of overtime. And I really felt like that shot helped kind of settle the Pacers down a little bit because they thought that they won the game. And I think it's really hard to go from, holy crap, Tyrese Halliburton just hit the newest best shot of the NBA playoffs, and we just won. We're up 1-0. Oh no, he had his foot on the line. Now we have to get ready for overtime. It's just that is a big emotional swing. And I thought that the shot that Andrew Nembhard hit to kind of get the lid off the basket to start overtime was really big. I thought he was okay defending Jalen Brunson the few times that he had to do it. When Brunson posted him up in the second half, I thought it was smart of the Pacers to double him. Jalen Brunson turned it over 7 times on the night. I know he had 43 points, but if you can make him turn it over 7 times, I don't think that you mind that trade-off. With that being said, the Pacers have to do a better job of defending Jalen Brunson. 43 points on 15 of 25 shooting is just way too many. They have to do a better job of defending Karl Anthony Towns. 35 points on 11 of 17 shooting. They combined took 25 free throws, which, and the Pacers as a team took 28, which is just laughable. It's insane, the whistle that the Knicks got in Game 1. I'm really hoping that the league fixes that. Either way, the Pacers struggled to defend Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. They have to be better at that. They have to be better at rebounding as well. It's really funny. They asked Coach Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton all these questions about Aaron Nesmith, after the game, and it was great. But they didn't ask Aaron Nesmith questions about Aaron Nesmith. It was Nesmith that they opted to ask this very important question of, hey, Aaron, what do you guys have to do better in Game 2? And here's what Aaron Nesmith had to say.
Fouling, offensive rebounds, making life as hard as possible for Brunson and Towns. He had 43. Towns had 35. Like, we got to find ways to be better on those guys, find ways to be better on the boards. And, there's a lot to learn from. Like, we were losing a game. So we have a lot to clean up, a lot to get better from. And we'll do that.
They do have a lot to clean up and a lot to get better from. One of those things, though, is not their ability to force turnovers. The Pacers scored 27 points off of the 15 turnovers that they forced against the New York Knicks. They only gave up 4 points off of their 7 turnovers. And it is imperative for the Pacers to win the turnover battle because they're going to lose the rebounding battle every game. They're probably going to lose the second chance points battle in every game the rest of the way. They didn't lose that battle last night, though. So the Knicks out-rebounded the Pacers by 7. But it was just because the Pacers took 6 more shots than the Knicks did. The Knicks had 13 offensive rebounds, which is too many. But the Pacers had 11 offensive rebounds of their own. And look, when you grab 11 offensive rebounds and you win the turnover battle by 8, that's going to give you a chance to win every single night in terms of the possession battle. The Pacers took 100 shots. The Knicks only took 94. The Pacers also had more second chance points than New York. If they win the second chance point battle, they're going to win this series. They won it last night 23-21. Mitchell Robinson was such a problem in that first half. He would come in and it's like, oh, he's just going to grab every offensive rebound. Sounds great. But that didn't continue in the second half. He only had 1 offensive rebound in the second half in overtime. The Pacers did a much better job of getting 2 bodies on him. You saw them pinching down on free throws, and it didn't really matter. He just moved people out of the way because he's just a very large human being. And so the rebounding was much better in the second half. I thought that the defense for both teams was much better in the second half after, neither team could miss in that first quarter or in the second quarter, really. The second half was a little more tame, more specifically the third quarter. I guess the Pacers scoring 51 points in, the fourth quarter and overtime isn't tame at all. But the third quarter, both teams finally kind of slowed down a little bit. So I thought that the defense was a little bit better from both sides there. But part of why I think the Pacers did such a great job of rebounding in that second half was because of the pace of the game. The Knicks, they looked tired. They grabbed every loose ball in that first half, the Knicks did. And as the game went on, the Pacers started to get more and more of them. That is the depth of the Pacers showing up. Only 2 players for the Pacers played 40 minutes or more last night in a game that went to overtime. That's abnormal. Okay, Pascal Siakam played 43. Tyrese Haliburton only played 42. They'll be fine and ready to go for game 2. Okay, I'll be interested to see how players like Mikal Bridges looks because he played 46 minutes and he was the primary defender on Tyrese Haliburton, which is not easy. Speaking of Haliburton, that dude was awesome last night. 31 points, 11 assists, 4 rebounds. He was he was plus 15, which means that the Pacers were minus 12 in the 10 minutes that he was off the floor. Tyrese Haliburton was the best player in that game last night. And, I say that and, people are like, well, what about, Jalen Brunson? He scored all of these points and he did blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. No. Tyrese Haliburton was the best player on the floor last night in game 1 between the Pacers and the Knicks. Once again, 31 points, 11 assists, 4 rebounds. He was plus 15. The Knicks were plus 5 with Jalen Brunson off the floor. And they were minus 8 when he was on the floor. In the 38 minutes that he played in that game. They were minus 8 when he was on the floor. Plus 5 when he was off. He had more turnovers than assists, Jalen Brunson did. And I think that a point guard's ultimate job is to create shots, whether that's for themselves or for other people. Between Tyrese Haliburton's points and assists, he contributed to 58 of the Pacers' 138 points. Jalen Brunson, between his points and assists, contributed to 54 of the Knicks' 135 points. And big shout out to Jalen Brunson. His 7 turnovers contributed to several Indiana Pacer points. So overall, like they were both fantastic. But Tyrese Halliburton created more buckets than Jalen Brunson did. He was, like I said, a game high plus 15. The Pacers were clearly worse when he was off the floor. And you can't say that about Jalen Brunson. I think part of that is just the turnovers. Like if the Knicks, if their point guard doesn't turn it over 7 times, then the Knicks probably win that game. Tyrese Halliburton was the best player on the floor last night. That has to continue for the rest of the series. I'm going to pat myself on the back here just a little bit. I did say yesterday that I thought that Tyrese Halliburton was going to have a big night because this is just a guy who consistently rises to the occasion, unlike really any other player in the sport, except for maybe Jalen Brunson, who simply wasn't as good as Tyrese Halliburton was late in that game. And all of that, of course, fed into an Indiana Pacers incredible Game 1 comeback. I can't wait for Game 2 on Friday. There's a watch party at Gamebridge. I will be there. If you're there as well, pull up. Come say what's up. Let's have a blast watching these games together because there's truly nothing better than Indiana Pacers basketball. Like there's not. And there's nothing better than watching them play in the Eastern Conference Finals. Tony East, who was in Madison Square Garden last night, he's going to join me coming up here at 11 o'clock, and we're going to talk about just the craziness of that game. When we come back, though, here in about 4 minutes, I got more thoughts on Pacers Knicks and why that felt like a Pacers game. Like, even though it was close, you knew that the Pacers had a chance given the style that was being played. More on that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show, where Indianapolis is currently the epicenter of the sports world. You got the Penske cheating stuff that came out yesterday. Jim Irsay, Colts owner, passed away. And then you have the Indiana Pacers with their third absurd comeback. Bars. I'm very blessed to have a sports radio show here in the great city of Indianapolis right now. And we're just going to continue talking about this Indiana Pacers team, because if you know anything about me, I freaking love basketball. Okay, it like I loved it as a kid. I ended up playing a lot of baseball because I'm 5'8", and my vertical might be 24 inches. I'm not sure. I don't think it's quite that high. I'll be honest with you. I'm working on it though. Bunny's loading. That's what the kids say. And last night just felt like a Pacers game. It was up and down all night long, running and gunning, and it was everything that you want for an Indiana Pacers basketball game to be. And Tyrese Halliburton was asked after the game last night about the pace and if that wore the Knicks down over the course of the game, and if that's why they were able to complete this comeback.
I think maybe you could say that. You know, they missed a couple free throws there down the stretch, had a couple short misses there at the end of the game. Sure, for coach's sake and for coach speak, yeah, the wear down effect was, in full effect right there. But I think the way you got to approach this game and approach this series is that it's going to be a 7-game series that can be played in 13 days, right? So that's how we're approaching it and looking at it. And you got to take it one day at a time. So, I think just trying to wear on these guys as much as we can. Obviously, their starters play a lot of minutes. I thought, obviously with some foul trouble, some other guys had to play a little bit more. They had a lineup out there that probably hasn't played together a ton, but was really effective for them there. So we just got to do a better job there. But I think, I think it's hard for me to discredit and say that the wear down effect wasn't there. I think from everything you're seeing that's a part of it. And I think that's a part of our identity. How can we wear on teams for 48 minutes? Obviously picking up full court, but, as well as our offensive pressure, getting downhill, moving, playing fast. I thought that we did a good job offensively of playing our style. They went on that little run there and obviously got a pretty big lead there. But I thought we did a great job of, Pascal had the and one on Cat, and we just, kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And I think that was really big for us, making extra plays, getting extra possessions with offensive rebounds or finishing, getting rebounds on that side. I think they were all big down the stretch. So, I think for Coach Carlisle's sake, we'll say the wear down effect was in full effect.
Tyrese Halliburton right there talking about the pace and the wear down effect of it. And I think he's right. As the game went on, the Pacers got more offensive rebounds and they got more loose balls than the Knicks did compared to what was happening earlier in the game. And that is partially a wear down effect. Part of that is luck as well. Sometimes the ball just bounces in your direction. And I think part of why this quote unquote wear down effect works so well against a team like the Knicks is because they really only trust or go to Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. If I was the Knicks, I would do everything I could to make sure that OG Anunoby is more involved in game 2 than he was in game 1. It took him forever to start taking shots. Like, he didn't really start getting shots up until Jalen Brunson went to the bench in that fourth quarter. If I was the Knicks, I would do whatever I could to get Miles Bridges more shots. He took 16 shots. It certainly didn't feel that way. It didn't feel that way. So this is the thing that's important. Down the stretch, that the Knicks, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday as to why I thought that the Pacers would win game 1. They are just unique because everybody matters. Whereas with the Knicks, I know down the stretch, and Stan Van Gundy pointed this out, down the stretch, I know that they're going to a Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns screen and roll, and everything that they do is going to branch off of that. And while the Pacers usually do start their offense with a, Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, or Obi Toppin, they played him at the 5 a lot to close that game last night, just to allow them to switch a little bit. I thought that was a great adjustment by Coach Carlisle. Made it, a little easier to double and then recover. I get it. They gave up some rim protection, but when Miles Turner is defending Karl Anthony Towns like he was for different stretches of the game last night, Karl Anthony Towns isn't hanging out by the rim. And so there's no need to have a rim protector on the floor because it's probably going to be your center, and your center is going to be standing out at the 3-point line with Karl Anthony Towns. Anyway, little side tangent there. Down the stretch, the Pacers have everyone on the floor. You trust them to make a big shot. You when Tyrese Halliburton hits that, foot on the line, game tying shot, Miles Turner was wide open. If he had given the ball up, Miles Turner would have had an open, I don't know about wide open, but he would have had an open look from the wing with Miles Bridges closing out Mikal Bridges closing out to him. I'd have been cool with that shot. Like, Miles Turner's a 42% 3-point shooter this year, something like that. No, it's 39%. My bad. Like, I'd have been fine with that. If they had found Aaron Nesmith to take that last shot, I'm fine with that. If it had been Andrew Nembhard, he had a big shot against the Knicks at home last year in the playoffs. Like, I'd have been fine with that. If it had been Obi Toppin, he's been their best bench player all year, I'd have been fine with that. So that is the advantage that the Pacers have. Whereas for the Knicks, like, they want it to be Brunson or Towns. They don't want anyone else taking a big shot down the stretch, even though guys like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are more than capable of making big shots down the stretch. Speaking of Obi Toppin, he was awesome. He was amazing. Same thing with Andrew Nembhard, just to kind of hammer this point home. Andrew Nembhard was the engine of the offense in overtime. It wasn't Tyrese Halliburton. They went away from Aaron Nesmith because they have options. Whereas for the Knicks, it was the same Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns 2-man game that we saw for most of the night. Obi Toppin, obviously also huge in that overtime. Just defensively, what he gives the Pacers was big. He made a couple big shots. He had the big, follow-up dunk, in the fourth quarter. He had the one where he, slipped a screen. Andrew Nembhard with a great pass, finds him. Obi Toppin gets fouled. They don't call it. And he finishes the dunk. He puts him up 3. And it was just really impressive. And I'm not even talking about Pascal Siakam, who had just a solid night, 17 points on 7 of 16 shooting. He also had 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals. Like that's another guy that the Pacers definitely trust down the stretch. And obviously, Tyrese Halliburton, like, that's the ultimate choice for a guy that you want taking a shot late in games. He is now 12 of 14 between the regular season and playoffs on game-tying or go-ahead shots in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter after last night. The point is, for the Pacers, it can be anyone, and it's part of why they're so dangerous and they're able to make these comebacks. Whereas the Knicks, it's going to be Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns late. Simple as that. And that's why I think we saw the Pacers double Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns occasionally in that fourth quarter. Like, you can't double anyone for Indiana because anyone can beat you. And that is such an advantage for the Indiana Pacers. And that truth would just grow if the Pacers bench had been better last night. I thought that the Knicks bench was better than the Pacers. TJ McConnell had 10 points. He gave them a very nice spark early on when no one wanted to play any sort of defense on either side for some reason. But once both teams started defending, that TJ McConnell production went away. The Pacers had 31 points off the bench, while the Knicks scored 17 points off their bench. And you hear that number, and you're like, oh, what are you talking about, Jonathan? The Pacers bench was definitely better than the Knicks. Just listen to that scoring discrepancy. But the Knicks bench played significantly less minutes. Significantly less. Like, they played 4 guys off their bench. One of them only played 26 seconds. Mitchell Robinson played 21 minutes. Cameron Payne played 10. And Miles McBride played 25. Meanwhile, for the Pacers, they played 5 guys off their bench. They went 10 deep in game 1, which is awesome. Obi Toppin played 20 minutes. Thomas Bryant at 13, McConnell at 14, Mathurin at 21, and Ben Shepherd at 7. Like they had more of their bench players on the floor, and I didn't feel their impact. Usually the Pacers, those bench guys that will come in and they'll manufacture some sort of run. And, they'll close the gap or they'll extend the lead. And then the starters come back in and they either finish closing off that gap or they extend the lead even more. We didn't get that last night. I will say Obi Toppin was awesome. 10 rebounds off the bench. And you need that if you're going to beat the Knicks. I think that's part of why he played so much down the stretch over Miles Turner, who only had 5 rebounds in 31 minutes. He's got to be better on the glass. Jeez Louise. Speaking of the Pacers' fourth quarter run, I think this is really important, and you're going to hear people talk about how the Pacers have to rebound better and second chance points and, the defense on Jalen Brunson and Towns has to be better. All very true. I've talked about those things. This is important as well, though. They didn't close quarters very well outside of the fourth. The Knicks closed the first quarter on a 14-5 run. They closed the second quarter on a 9-3 run. And no one closed the third quarter on any sort of run because both teams struggled offensively in that quarter. The Pacers have to close quarters better. They have to. It's something that I don't understand because I'm not a coach, and I can't wait to have Dan in here today because I'm going to ask him because I hear coaches talk about the importance of closing quarters well all the time. And I think that you saw it, though. Like the Knicks were just able to kind of skirt ahead or stretch out the lead to close a quarter. And that's usually something that the Pacers do a really good job of. And if they can get a little bit more production off that bench, if they can close quarters a little bit better, they won't need a miracle comeback to win games. So I love the resiliency of this team. I'm on cloud 9 when it comes to Pacers basketball right now. And, it's just awesome. It's awesome. I'm going to watch more playoff basketball tonight. Game 2, Timberwolves, Thunder. Going to be fantastic. No other word for it. Cinema, maybe. I think that the Timberwolves are going to be much better prepared for Game 2 tonight, and I think it's going to be just a ton of fun to watch that series unfold because the Timberwolves are a very good basketball team, and they're going to find ways to make that series against the Thunder tough. When we come back at 11 o'clock, Tony East of Locked On Pacers, he was in the building last night. He's going to join the show. And we're going to talk about that improbable Pacers comeback when we come back at 11 o'clock.
Students who can read by the end of third grade are 35% more likely to graduate. I'm Dr. Katie Jenner, Indiana Secretary of Education, here to tell you how reading 30 minutes per day can improve the trajectory of a child's life. Whether you are reading with your child or they are reading independently, this is one of the most important things you can do to help them succeed. So this school year, please encourage your child to continue reading. It's a small habit that makes a big difference.
Sponsored by the Indiana Department of Education and aired by this station.
Hey race fans, it's time to get out there and enjoy the sights and sounds of Indy. If you're struggling with hair loss, you probably have a Brickyard-size hat collection. Why wear a hat when you can have hair? We Grow Hair Indy specializes in technologically advanced hair restoration options that help you look and feel your best. Don't let hair loss hold you back. See your future self with a full, confident head of hair. Call 317-522-2995 and lose the hat. We Grow Hair Indy offers every proven solution to restore your hair. With over 20 years specializing only in hair restoration, they are your best bet for restoring your confidence and your hair. We Grow Hair Indy is only one of 2 places in the entire U.S. to offer the multi-unit hair grafting and the
Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith, or maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app. If you are on Twitter, at Tony R. East is who you need to follow for all of your Pacers information. Tony joining the show now to talk about that incredible Pacers comeback win last night, the third one in the last month. Tony, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm awesome. I love New York City. I've seen awesome basketball games once every 7 days. I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, doing pretty good.
I'm sure you are. I couldn't sleep last night, Tony. Like so Halliburton hits the shot to tie it. I thought that they won it. And like Tony, I think you know me well enough to know that I'm a very like relaxed person. Like I feel like I'm a pretty chill guy. Tony, I was standing up in my living room, like hunched over, staring at the TV, like there's no way that this is gonna happen again. I woke my wife up on accident. I yelled so loud. And what I'm really curious to know, because like you were there, you were in the building. How quiet did it get?
Yeah, you saw my tweet, I'm sure. Like so Brunson got him a 14 with whatever 250, whatever to go. And I thought it was over at that point. So when Nesmith hit the first of his insane threes in the last minute, I tweeted, surely they can't do this again, right? Like they were down 14 points 2 minutes ago. There's no way. Like it doesn't make any sense. This one, with the stage being bigger and it being more improbable numerically, just it doesn't make sense. I don't know how they do this or what it even makes sense. The silence of the crowd was very funny because Jalen Brunson took a bunch of free throws at the end of overtime and late in regulation, and it was kind of like Peyton Manning in the RCA Dome. Like they kept shing and like putting their fingers to their mouth to tell the crowd to be quiet so Brunson could focus on these free throws. So they were practicing being quiet. They were very ready for when they had to be quiet because they lost the game, and they were very ready. Everybody, like people left early for like a million reasons, right? They thought they were going to win when they were 14. Like New York traffic and subways a pain. They left, and at various moments, like late or through overtime. It's like it was crazy. It was just the craziest kind of grouping of people wanting to leave the bill for various reasons. I couldn't believe any of it.
Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers. He was there at the game last night. I don't know if you've seen this video, but they have the watch party right outside of MSG. And there's a video of Halliburton. He takes the shot, it hits the heel of the rim, and the crowd erupts. And then they realize that it bounced in, and then it went silent. Is that kind of what it was like in the building?
Yeah, it's funny that they all cheered when it bounced up, right? Because they thought it missed. And so there was this moment. I thought that it was not going to bounce in. I didn't realize it had a chance to go in until I looked at Aaron Nesmith, who's right under the net, right? He's if the ball could have gone through the net without hitting it and slowing down, it would have hit him in the face. And he was still looking up. He was still looking up at it like, oh, this might go in. And I thought, oh, I should keep watching. Like I was looking at Halliburton to see how he was going to react to his shot. I didn't realize it was a 2 when he let it go. And so Nesmith made me realize it was going to go in, but none of the fans could tell. They all just were like, yeah, and then they went in. And like depending on your angle in the arena, the bounce probably looked like it wouldn't. It was just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous is the only word for it. It's Kawhi Leonard 2019 shot against the Sixers-esque. Like that, like the ball that Kawhi Leonard shot hung on the rim forever. And it felt like that Halliburton ball was in the air for just forever. And obviously, like we don't get there without Aaron Nesmith, hitting 6 threes in a row. He scored 20 points in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. First time that's ever been done. He's now like the 7th player in playoff history to hit 6 threes in a quarter. First one to do it in the fourth. You were so right because you came on a couple weeks ago and we were talking about Halliburton either after the Bucks come back or after the Cavs come back. And you were like, yeah, it's always Halliburton, but it's also always Aaron Nesmith.
Always.
And, like you just go because like you've been on this for a while now.
Every single time they have a game like this, it's actually escalated in volume, but there's always one play, at least during the run, where it's like they would not have won the game without Aaron Nesmith, right? The tip dunk against the Cavs, and he played good defense in that stretch too. He had a huge rebounded shot against the Bucks, right? And so every time we're like, it's always Halliburton. It is. Like the clutch shot is the reason we're talking about this at all. Halliburton deserves to be the face of it, but Nesmith always does something to be involved, and he never is messing up. He's never afraid of the moment. And so that's what made me start this, being like, hey, like he should probably be included in this, like, oh, this is crazy. They keep doing this conversation. But last night was different, where it was like, oh, this is just the best player on the court right now. It wasn't always Nesmith. I can't even think of the right word. Like every possession, right? They They would just look for him. He'd come around the screen. He's moving full speed. This is the hardest shot as it gets. Perfect flow state. Like, he had all the legs under him because Ben Shepherd had just checked him for like 8 minutes. He couldn't miss. It was insane. I appreciated his honesty. I don't know if you heard him say this post game. Someone asked him if he wanted the last shot, and he's like, honestly, kind of, yeah. Like, and it's one of the only times I can remember for the Pacers in a clutch moment where had Aaron Nesmith taken the last shot instead of Tyrese Haliburton, everybody would have been like, yep, totally get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that makes all the sense in the world because he was that hot. He just, every game that they need a clutch play to win, he makes at least one, often multiple. Last night it was 6 million of them. It was just insane to see Aaron Nesmith play that well and get a podium game in a conference final setting. He loves MSG, man. He's great there.
The Aaron Nesmith game. It will live on for forever. Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers.
Yeah, how will that one be remembered, right? Like Halliburton doing the Sam Cassell in Cleveland obviously is going to be the face of that game. And the Bucks one closed out a series, so like they could all celebrate like crazy. Like Nesmith had the moments, but Halliburton had the shot, but Turner had the pinning block, and like there's all these shocked Knicks faces. There's so many ways I'll remember that one.
Nembhard scores or assists on 9 of the Pacers' 13 points in overtime. Like this is, and I talked about this a little bit. Tony East of Locked On Pacers talking about the win last night. Like watching the Knicks down the stretch, I'm like, oh, it's going to be Towns or Brunson. And with the Pacers, it can be anybody. And it's part of why I think they're able to manufacture these comebacks, because when you have 5 players on the floor that are all as good as what the Pacers have, like someone's going to get going. It's just the question of who. And I think that the two people who won't be talked about enough for very obvious and very good reasons, Halliburton and Nesmith were obviously awesome, three are Nembhard, who was great in overtime, Obi Toppin with 10 rebounds off the bench, and Coach Carlisle. I thought Coach Carlisle called a perfect game. Like he called every timeout when he was supposed to. I thought that going smaller at the end of the game, taking Miles Turner out and putting Obi Toppin in, I thought that was a large part of why they won. So you can kind of take whichever guy you want and kind of and run with it there. But those 3 guys, what did you kind of think of their performances last night?
Yeah, Drew is this important kind of connector in the overtime period. First of all, he hit the 3 that was a huge shot, because that swing from Brunson gets blocked to Nembhard's 3, because the Pacers stunk for the first 2 minutes of overtime. Like they're about to be down 6. And that's like a huge deficit in overtime. Instead, they're down just 1. That was huge, but he kept just like cutting around to the basket, bucket, drive into the lane. Like he was this connecting piece that they really needed. That was very important when the Knicks were giving as much attention to the Pacers' best players as they were. Carlisle, every game this happens. It's happened every single playoff game. There's a stretch out there where Thomas Bryant or Ben Shepherd's in the game, sometimes both, and I see 10,000 tweets on my timeline. What is he doing? Why are these guys in the game at the same time? I don't get it. And then the starters come in, and they're all really fresh, and the Pacers come back and win. It's like, hey, the game is 48 minutes long. Like, can we just relax for 2 seconds? I don't think Thomas Bryant played particularly well. Turner was out a little longer than I thought he should have been. Guess what? It worked. Like it's just how it works. He has had once again fantastic playoffs. He's created the system that only works for the roster he has, and they're all very good. I literally forget who your third player. Oh, Obi, yeah. He was great. I don't get how he's getting booed. I'm in the Garden, like, wait, do they hate him? Like the Knicks traded him away. Did he do something wrong? But I would hate him now if I'm a Knicks fan, because he had all of his offensive rebounds were huge. One was that tip dunk off of Halliburton's missed 3 in overtime. The floating dunk, which he shouldn't have shot it at all. He definitely got fouled, but that put him up 3 late. The stones to take that, especially after he missed a key dunk earlier in the game, was impressive. And they're going to have to kind of go small, I think, at times in the series, maybe more than I thought, to just combat what Towns does, like make him defend more. If Top is going to give him those kind of minutes, he's the only bench player who gave him legitimately positive play. McConnell was pretty good in the first half, but he's the only bench player who gave him like long stretches of good play. Great, he's going to play a lot. He was very good. I mean, everybody did something, right? Nobody totally stunk every minute they were on the floor, but a lot of standouts for 10 million reasons.
Yeah, the first half, I was talking about it earlier, and I was like, yeah, McConnell was really good in the first half, but everyone was good in the first half when it came to scoring the ball. Like that.
Oh my God.
What were you thinking? Because like this is going to get glossed over as well, just because the fourth quarter was so crazy. Once again, joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers. He was there at Madison Square Garden last night. What was the feeling in the building when it was like, oh, I guess both teams are going to shoot better than 67% from the floor in that first quarter?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because it kind of how you felt about the score of the game at that time was whichever team you were more optimistic with to start the series. What I mean by that is like the Pacers were like shooting 80% for 10 minutes to start the game. Like they got their, on one hand, if you're a Pacers fan, you're like, sweet, we can generate good shots. We're shooting 80%. Like this hasn't been that hard. But on the other hand, you're like, wait, we're up 2? Like we're only up 2. We've made like every shot we've taken. And if you're the Knicks, you're like, dang, we're only down 2 and we haven't even shot that well, right? So the offense early in the game, I think, was just kind of like whoever you thought would be better, you could justify it that easily because I don't know how this really happened. It wasn't weird. It just, I need to like really figure it out. Everybody talked about the pace battle of this series, right? One team wants to play really fast, one team wants to play really slow. It felt like when the Pacers were on offense, they could play fast, no problem. And when the Knicks were on offense, they could play slow, no problem. And there was like no in between. I think that's just because there were so many made shots, but the pace was not like standardized throughout the game ever. And so both teams just scored whenever they wanted. And so eventually I thought, well, one team's just going to go on a run, and it was the Knicks. But it was just kind of a goofy first half in that you could score all these points and you couldn't grab a huge lead. So it was kind of hard to figure out, where is this going to go? Is anyone going to ever get a grip on this game? And the Knicks got a grip on it at the weirdest time in the fourth quarter. But it was so odd in the first half that I think both teams were probably like, yeah, we feel pretty good about this. You know, it's weird that both teams would feel that way.
It was. I felt like the game was really fast. I felt like the pace favored the Pacers after that first quarter because when both teams, like you said, when you're taking the ball out of the net, literally every time down, like it's going to naturally kind of slow it down. And then the Pacers tried to speed it up. I think the offensive rebounds in the first half as well kind of probably made things feel a little slower. Which
Mitch was great.
He only had one offensive rebound in the second half, which I thought was, that's part of why I really liked the Obi Toppin minutes because he, like, I think that you're right. Like the Pacers want to go a little smaller to kind of combat a lot of what Karl Anthony Towns does. But I love Miles Turner. I have been a Miles Turner defender ever since I started this show. But that guy cannot rebound. Like he just doesn't rebound very well. And I wonder if that's part of why Carlisle took him out late. Because with the way that the Knicks play Towns, like Miles Turner just isn't around the rim enough to actually block shots. And so I wonder if his thought process was, we need to actually like rebound a little bit here. So we're going to play more Obi Toppin.
Yeah, I think that's some of it. And like in the first half, the answer was, oh, let's try Thomas Bryant against Mitchell Robinson. Thomas Bryant couldn't rebound against that guy either, right? Like he just was scooping up everything that was even kind of close to him. And like, I get why you'd think Thomas Bryant would be better in that moment. He's a better rebounder. But yeah, they couldn't do anything. Cat was awesome on the defensive glass, like the Mikal Bridges rebounds, which someone on the Knicks is going to be guarded by Halliburton. Like someone is going to be guarded by Andrew Nembhard. Someone on the Knicks is just going to be able to run in and get these offensive rebounds, right? And that's like a good way to stop the Pacers historically. But they cleaned it up in the second half. They were a lot better throughout the game. But yeah, I wondered why they went away from Turner so much in that fourth quarter, because when it was Toppin Siakam, I got it, right? Going small, go offense heavy, I get it. When it was Bryant, I was like, what is the point? This doesn't, I mean, I'm not going to bellyache too much about it because it worked, but it wasn't that Turner didn't come in until like 30 seconds to go, so that was kind of peculiar, I suppose, but it was the right choice. It made these guys work. It grinded them down. They were up 9 with 2 minutes to go, and Josh Hart was like, or Karl Towns said, yeah, you know what? We kind of stopped playing. 48-minute game, now 46. So whoever was out there, they all earned it.
Joined by Tony East, the Locked On Pacers. The last thing for you, Tony, and I will let you go. What's the biggest adjustment that the Pacers need to make from game one going into game two?
Yeah.
Of the many, because there's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, if they came back and won, but like they were down 14 in the fourth quarter, right? Like they've got to play a lot better. I don't know that I love there's a lot, right? The stuff they talked about after the game were, we just talked about rebounding. They fouled a lot, and like you're going to foul a lot playing the Knicks. 40 free throws for the Knicks, and I largely thought they were earned, but not all of them were. Everybody's going to have a few Brunson ones that make them roll their eyes. That was the obvious, like, big picture stuff. The defense on Brunson and Cat maybe needs to be a little bit better. And the thing that I'm going to talk about a lot throughout this series is just how they match up. Right? They've started with Siakam on Anunoby, Halliburton on Bridges, Nembhard on Hart. That surprised me. Nesmith on Brunson, which they did last year, and Turner on Towns. And a lot of teams have been putting wings on Towns and not guarding that straight up, right? And so that lets Towns post up more and feel confident and get his passing going and all this stuff. So I wonder if they switch up the matchups in a way because they want to slow down those guys. It does lead to a lot of problems elsewhere with cross-matching and transition and switching and all that kind of stuff. But lots of teams have found success defending the Knicks differently with their big on Hart or a big on Hart and then a wing on Towns. And then, figuring out where to put Halliburton is really hard against the Knicks. That like every matchup is challenging for him. Same goes for Brunson on the other end, obviously. Like he was guarding Nesmith a lot. We saw how that worked out. So it's just a really interesting series in that way. And so I wonder if, given the success of the Knicks start, they had 78 points and took a million free throws, if they re-examine, one, who's on who, and two, how they're defending those guys in terms of trying to keep everything 2-on-2 in the pick and roll, because they didn't get killed by anybody else. Like Bridges was pretty good, I guess, but they did a pretty good job on Hart and Anunoby, and no one off the bench did anything really besides Robinson on the glass. So if they could figure out what to do against those two specifically with a little tweak, I think that would go a long way for them.
I like how they doubled them in the second half a little bit more.
Yeah.
Brunson turned it over 7 times, which I think is another thing that's going to be glossed over. Tony, thanks for your time, man. As always, I know you're busy up there in New York. I do have to tell you this. So my older brother, Caleb, who came with me to game 3 of Pacers and Cavaliers, doesn't care at all about basketball. Like he doesn't care.
Okay.
But he's been so engaged in this Pacers run. I just got a text from him. He said, "Bro, I am a Pacers fan." I'm like, "That's great. I love that." Like,
I got a text from a college friend who I haven't talked to in probably 10 years, who says this morning, said, "Hey, you do some work with the Pacers, right?" I'm like, yes. Everybody is interested in what's going on.
Yeah. It's exactly right. That's exactly right. Tony, thanks for your time, man.
You got it, man. Take care.
See ya. That is Tony East. You can check him out on Twitter at Tony R. East. He does an excellent job covering the Indiana Pacers. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, bad news or sad news. Jim Irsay passing away yesterday. I've got just a couple pretty brief thoughts on that, and then we'll get back to more Pacers versus Knicks.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Tickets. The Indiana Pacers are rolling right now. The memes on my Twitter timeline are fantastic. No other word for it. Thank you for tuning into the show, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. Head over there and subscribe. Maybe watch it on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith, or maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And as always, if you want a little bit more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. Now, Pacers Knicks was awesome last night, but I do want to talk a little bit more about Jim Irsay and his passing yesterday. Very sad. Only 65 years old. That is not old at all. It's a really sad thing, and it's been so cool to read all of the stories that guys like Pat McAfee have put out on Twitter to talk about Jim Irsay and just all these different people and all these just very positive experiences that they had with Jim. Reading them all, it's just been very, very touching. And with that being said, I think my favorite story I've heard told, I don't know if Booger McFarland tweeted this out or if he's going to tell the story on some platform later today, but Booger McFarland was traded for, and he ended up playing on the team that won the Super Bowl in 2006 when they beat the Chicago Bears. It is the first Super Bowl that I remember. Devin Hester, returning a kickoff for a touchdown, Peyton Manning beating Peyton Manning in that game. And Booger McFarland tells this story about how after the Colts won the AFC Championship game, Jim Irsay called Booger into his office and asked him a very simple question. He said, "Booger, you've played in the Super Bowl before. What do I need to know to make sure that our team is as well prepared as they can be?" And Booger McFarland laid it out for him. He goes, this is different. This is different travel. We should probably do this. Yeah, all that stuff. And Jim Irsay was like, all right, cool. We're going to do all of it. And we're in this era of people owning sports teams that have their hands in multiple other businesses. Mark Cuban invests in everything. When he was the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he was clearly dealing with more than just the Dallas Mavericks. Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, he's also the CEO of Microsoft. The new owners of the Dallas Mavericks, they are heavily invested in casinos, and they seem more occupied with putting casinos in and around the Dallas Mavericks arena than they do with the actual team. I'm sure that Boston Celtic fans are terrified of whoever is going to buy that team, because there are some owners who don't care about the on-the-field product. Go to Pittsburgh and watch the Pirates play. That owner doesn't give two rips about the on-the-field product. He just cares about the bottom line. And sadly, there were a lot of owners like that. And Jim Irsay was not one of those owners. It seemed like his main interest was in the Indianapolis Colts. And as a fan of a professional sports franchise, I think that's really what fans want. They want an owner who wants to win as badly as they do. And Jim Irsay wanted to win as badly as every Colts fan did. He was the youngest general manager in the history of the NFL when he became the Colts GM at the ripe age of 24 years old. I'm 25. Couldn't imagine that. Couldn't imagine. I would be so far out of my depth. But Jim Irsay held that position for 13 years. And I think that when you do something that important for any organization, whether it's a professional sports team or a hospital or an accounting firm, whatever it is, when you do something that important for that long, it just becomes ingrained in you. And there is a part of you that always wants to see that place succeed. And I think that played a role in Jim Irsay and his love for football and his love for the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, he was, a little out there. He liked to party a little bit. He had some some issues and some flaws, but, we all do. That's fine. But at the end of the day, he was an owner who loved the city, who loved the Indianapolis Colts, and wanted for them to win. And so I guess his daughters are going to take over the franchise now. I hope that is the biggest lesson that they took from their dad. If you want to win as much as the fans do, and you make moves and you make decisions based off of that, then I think fans kind of rally around that. And I think that fans, when they look across sports, that they realize how rare it is to have an owner who truly cares as much as you do. And that's how Jim Irsay was. So may he rest in peace. And if you have any stories about Jim Irsay, feel free to tweet at me, __ Jonathan Smith. I would love to hear them. You can also come over to YouTube, Indie Sports Ticket. And if you hop in the YouTube chat, if you have a story about it or about him, let me know, because I love reading them. I love hearing about how kind of a person he was. So, with that being said, his final tweet was about the Pacers and their game one, against the New York Knicks. He tweets out, "Go Pacers. Good luck to Herb and the entire Pacers organization and our city." And, and then, he tweeted it out, and then 7 hours later he passed. I think that he scheduled that tweet. I don't know. But thankfully the Pacers came through. And this game was just incredible. It's the Aaron Nesmith game, but Tyrese Halliburton was also incredibly important, hitting that big shot late. Obi Toppin was big off the bench. Andrew Nembhard was the engine of the offense in overtime. It was just an incredible game. And teams up by 14 points or more in the final 2 minutes and 50 seconds of a playoff fourth quarter or overtime are now 977-1 after last night, because the Aaron Nesmith game happened. That's what I'm going to coin it as. Just because the dude scores 20 points in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. I think it deserves to be coined the Aaron Nesmith game. And the Pacers end up pulling off their third improbable comeback of these 2025 NBA playoffs. They're up 1-0 after not playing very well. They did not play a good first game. And as important as Aaron Nesmith was, this game felt over. Jalen Brunson goes out in the fourth quarter with a little over 10 minutes left with 5 fouls. And he goes to the bench, and the Knicks are like, "That's cool." Boom, 14-0 run. It's like, oh, this is why you go get Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. And when that happened, it felt like the game was over. The Knicks were up 16. There's 7 minutes left to go. The Pacers weren't guarding anybody. And you knew that Jalen Brunson was going to come back in. And when he did, he was going to continue to score. And it didn't matter, because Aaron Nesmith's just a dog in every sense of the word. He hits 6 consecutive threes in those final 4 minutes and 45 seconds, scores 20 points in those final 4 minutes and 45 seconds. And there were some other guys who scored in there. I think, Obi Toppin had a big putback dunk. Siakam, had a big and one. Halliburton hit a 3. But it was Aaron Nesmith. And it's so fitting, because he is the head of this very tough team. When I think about the toughness of the Indiana Pacers, I think about Aaron Nesmith first. Here is Coach Carlisle after the game talking about Aaron Nesmith getting hot late.
Aaron, the thing that put him in position to do that was Shepard going in there and giving us, 7 or 8 really strong minutes, just playing at full capacity, picking up full, all that. It allowed Aaron a chance to rest a little bit. So he came back in the game fresh, and he had his legs. And I don't know how many he made down the stretch. Seemed like it was 5 or 6 or 7, 6. They were all very much needed. And look, NBA players are amazing. I mean, these guys get on a roll and they do amazing things. And so, Brunson makes stuff like this look routine. Aaron got hot certainly at the right time.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Aaron Nesmith getting it done for the Indiana Pacers in that fourth quarter. Aaron Nesmith is now the first player in NBA history to make 6 threes in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. Only 6 other players in the history of the NBA have made 6 threes in a quarter, any quarter, of a playoff game. Antoine Walker did it against Philly in 2002. Damian Lillard did it against Denver in 2021. Devin Booker did it against the Lakers in 2021. Michael Porter Jr., same series, 2021. He did it against Portland. Bogdanovich did it in 2021. And Steph Curry did it against Boston in the NBA Finals in 2022. And look, when you're down by 14 with 2.5 minutes left, everyone knows that the only way you're coming back is if someone gets hot. And Aaron Nesmith continued to be hot. He hits three straight threes from the 51-second mark to the 22-second mark. That's 9 points in 29 seconds. Not quite Reggie Miller, but close enough. And in that stretch, the Knicks lead went from 6 all the way down to 2. The pressure was on from that moment forward. Karl Anthony Towns misses a free throw 8 seconds later. OG Anunoby fouls Aaron Nesmith. And, Aaron Nesmith makes both. Cuts the lead down to 1. Then OG Anunoby, he misses a free throw. All of a sudden, the Pacers have a great chance to win. Tyrese Halliburton is running the ball up the floor, and they set him a ball screen. He gets a switch. He's got Mitchell Robinson on him. He sprints backwards as opposed to going to the rim. Probably the right call there. And he takes a fall away, foot on the line 2-pointer that hits the heel of the rim, bounces straight into the air, comes straight back down, and it goes in. Here is Tyrese Halliburton after the game talking about hitting that game-tying shot.
I knew I'm like, it's going in. It just felt like it got stuck up there, though, And honestly, when it, went in, I was like, I thought my eyes might have been deceiving me in the moment. But it felt good when it left my hand. So, I thought it was going to go in. And, the ball felt like it was up there for eternity. But, man, just a special moment.
Special moment for sure, Tyrese hitting another big shot in these playoffs. And it was just incredible. And the Pacers deserved for that to happen. They deserved to get that bounce. And I'll tell you why when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, you can also watch on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you'd like to follow me there. You can also listen via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you get your apps. And as always, if you want a little bit more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. The Indiana Pacers deserved for that shot to go in from Tyrese Halliburton. And I don't use the word deserved very often. And I don't really like the term team of destiny because I just don't believe in destiny. I believe in hard work and just, being good at things. Okay. And that's who this Pacers team is. Like, they play incredibly hard. They go after every loose ball. They never say die. It's honestly incredible what we see from them consistently. And yeah, like it's incredible. And so they're outstanding. And just the way that they never give up. And when you play like that and you play hard all the time and you're tough and you just keep working and you keep going, bounces eventually go your way. And that's what happens. Like, when you stay in it and you're tough and you just keep on working, eventually the ball bounces your way. The Pacers got a huge bounce in that spot to send it to overtime. I really loved the Reggie Miller choking celebration. It still fit because they won the game. And I mean, this run for the Pacers is it's crazy. You got game 5 against Milwaukee. Crazy comeback there. Game 2 against Cleveland. Even crazier. This one, though, craziest of all of them. Pacers scored 20 points in the final 3 minutes to force overtime. Thankfully, both OG Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns missed a big free throw each. Aaron Nesmith got incredibly hot from 3. And since the 96-97 season, teams that have trailed by 7 points or more in the final 50 seconds of the fourth quarter or overtime in the playoffs are 4 and 1,702. The Pacers have 3 of those 4 wins, and they're all this year. This team's ability to just stay in it and keep working is what makes them the Indiana Pacers. Here's Coach Carlisle after the game talking about their ability to make these comebacks.
Well, we've had a lot of these games this year. I mean, we've probably had a dozen of them throughout the season. A lot of the games early where we were struggling were games we had to pull out. There were clutch games when we weren't playing particularly well. And, it's just, it's a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. And it's not easy. It's not easy. There's been a lot of wild swings and scores throughout the season and the playoffs. But, you certainly don't take anything like this for granted. This is very, very difficult to do, but it's a 48-minute game. And we always say, Pacer basketball is 48 minutes. And tonight it was 53 minutes.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about how this team's ability to make comebacks is just a muscle. And they just been working it out all playoffs, figuring it out. And this is who the Pacers are. They are relentless. They are resilient. They are tough. And the head of that snake is Aaron Nesmith. When you think about the toughness of the Indiana Pacers, Aaron Nesmith, for me, that's the first guy that I think of. And just how resilient. He picked up Jalen Brunson full court, all game. He's hitting big shots late. He's diving on the floor for loose balls, skying in, trying to grab rebounds. He's boxing out like crazy. And it's only fitting that this was the guy who led the comeback. Other players obviously played big roles as well. I thought Andrew Nembhard was excellent in overtime. 7 points in overtime. He scored or assisted on 9 of the Pacers' 13 points in overtime. He had a big deflection off of Jalen Brunson that ended up giving the Pacers the ball back, and then they scored off of that. Obi Toppin, he was good as well, but it was Andrew Nembhard who finds him rolling to the rim in overtime for that easy dunk to put the Pacers up 138 to 135. Obi Toppin got fouled on that play, but it's the Knicks, so they're not going to call it. Aaron Nesmith is rightfully going to get a ton of the attention today. He, like I said, he defended Brunson for the majority game. He had 30 points. He was 8 of 9 from 3, and he led this incredible comeback. But Andrew Nembhard was every bit as impactful as Aaron Nesmith was in that game because of what he did in overtime. Like, one of the biggest shots of the game, first and foremost, Miles Turner, what a block. Like, what a chase down on Jalen Brunson. Jonathan, it was a goaltend. I don't care. No, it was not a goaltend. It was a block. Because if you go and you look at it, it is listed as a block. If it was a goaltend, then the referee would have called it. But he didn't, so it's a block. And so he blocks that, Jalen Brunson layup. They come back down. They find, Andrew Nembhard in the corner. He finally gets both feet behind the three-point line on a corner three. He is the king of the foot on the line corner three. And he hits a big shot to keep the game from getting away from the Pacers. And, the times where he had to defend Brunson because he got switched onto him, or, Aaron Nesmith was on the bench and they just needed someone to guard Brunson. I thought he did a good job. I like how when Brunson posted Andrew Nembhard up in the second half, I like how the Pacers doubled. Brunson turned it over 7 times last night. And it's like, look, I know he had 43 points. That's way too many. But if you can force him to turn the ball over 7 times, like, that is obviously a good thing. Either way, though, the Pacers really struggled trying to contain him. Once again, 43 points, 15 of 25 shooting. Karl Anthony Towns had a great night as well, 35 points, 4 of 8 from 3, 11 of 17 shooting. Brunson took 14 free throws. Karl Anthony Towns took 11. And, that's what's that, 25? That's 25 free throws between the two of them. The Pacers took 28. And it wasn't like the Pacers took a million threes. Like, they were going to the rim. I thought the officiating was terrible last night. One way or the other, the Pacers can be better defensively guarding those guys. Here's Aaron Nesmith after the game talking about what the Pacers need to do better in game 2.
Fouling, offensive rebounds, making life as hard as possible for Brunson and Towns. He had 43, Towns had 35. Like, we got to find ways to be better on those guys, find ways to be better on the boards. And, there's a lot to learn from. Like, we were losing the game, so we have a lot to clean up, a lot to get better from, and we'll do that.
Aaron Nesmith right there talking about what they need to be better at, not fouling, rebounding, and getting loose balls, all part of it. But one thing that they did do very well, and is a large part of why they won, they forced 15 turnovers. And they scored 27 points off of those 15 turnovers. And that is just such a big deal for this game. They also only turned the ball over 7 times, and they only gave up 4 points off of those 7 turnovers. And I expect for the Pacers to lose the rebounding battle and the second chance points battle every game in this series. To be fair, they didn't lose it last night. The Knicks out-rebounded the Pacers by 7, but it was because because the Pacers took 6 more shots than the Knicks did. They missed more shots than the Knicks did. The real thing is the offensive glass. And yes, the Knicks had 13 offensive rebounds. That's way too many. But the Pacers had 11 offensive rebounds of their own. They ended up winning the turnover battle by 8. And that's always going to give the Pacers a chance. They created more opportunities for themselves off of offensive rebounds and turnovers than the Knicks did. Okay, the Pacers also had more second chance points, 23-21. That was very surprising. I didn't expect that out of them last night. But hey, they figured it out. Mitchell Robinson dominated the glass in that first half. That did not continue in the second half. He only had 1 offensive rebound in the third and fourth quarters and overtime. The Pacers did a much better job of getting bodies, not just 1, but 2 bodies on him to keep him off of the offensive glass. I think part of why they did a great job rebounding as well was just because of the pace of the game. The Knicks looked tired later. They grabbed every loose ball in that first half. Like, the Knicks got every single one. And as the game went on, the Pacers started to get more and more of them. And that is the depth of the Pacers showing up. Only 2 players for Indiana played 40 minutes last night. Siakam with 43 minutes and Halliburton with 42. They're going to be ready to go for game 2 because that's a Tuesday night in the regular season for the Knicks. So they'll both recover from that just fine. No one else, though, played over 40 minutes. I'll be interested to see how Mikal Bridges looks in game 2 after playing 46 minutes and being the primary defender on Halliburton. Like, you were running around and doing, working through a million ball screens, and it's a pain. It is. So I'll be interested to see how he looks because, like I said, he played 46 minutes. Every Pacer, or no, 3 of the 5 Knicks starters played over 40 minutes. Karl Anthony Towns played 39. Jalen Brunson only played 38 because of foul trouble. So we'll see how those, guys who logged 40 plus more minutes look in game 2. Halliburton, though, he was awesome last night. He was the best player on the floor. 31 points, 11 assists, 4 rebounds. He was a game high plus 15, and he was the best player on the floor. I know that Jalen Brunson had 43 points, and, people are going to talk about that. And because he scored more points than Halliburton, he must have played better. Not true. All he did was score. And the Knicks were actually better with him off the floor than they were with him on the floor. They were -8 in the 38 minutes that Jalen Brunson played, and they were +5 in the 13 minutes that he did not play. Says a lot. Jalen Brunson had more turnovers than he had assists, 7 turnovers, only 5 assists. Halliburton scored 31, so it wasn't like the dude didn't score. He had 11 assists, only turned it over twice, and he was a game high +15. That means that in the 10 minutes or the 11 minutes that he didn't play in this game, the Pacers were -12. Between his points, Tyrese Halliburton's, between his points and assists, he contributed to 58 of the Pacers' 138 points. Jalen Brunson contributed to 54 of the Knicks' 135 points. And I think that the best point guards in the NBA, the best players, period, in the NBA, they create baskets. That at the simplest form, that's what these guys do. And Tyrese Halliburton created more buckets for himself and his Pacer teammates than Jalen Brunson did last night. Oh, and by the way, Jalen Brunson just gave the Pacers points with those 7 turnovers. Like, the Pacers as a team had 7 turnovers, and Jalen Brunson by himself had 7 of them. Tyrese Halliburton was the best player on the floor last night. And if the Pacers want to win this series, that has to continue to happen. They have to continue to turn the Knicks over. They have to continue to keep this game going at an incredibly fast pace. And it is just nothing short of amazing. And I love this team. I love watching them play. They can be better in game 2. Like, that has to be a great feeling of, man, like, we didn't play very well and we still won. If we can clean up the offensive rebounds in the first half, if we can, not allow the Knicks to shoot 67% from the field in the first quarter, and if we can continue to run really good offense, then we're going to be fine. And I'm sure that the Knicks are obviously frustrated and disappointed after blowing that game, but they probably feel pretty similar. Like, hey, like, we outplayed them a lot. If we can just not collapse, if we can just, get somebody to cover Aaron Nesmith, which, by the way, that's a Jalen Brunson thing. They put Jalen Brunson on Aaron Nesmith, and he went crazy. He just kept running away from the dude. And Jalen Brunson couldn't keep up. He couldn't work over the screens. That's another area where Tyrese Halliburton was significantly better than Jalen Brunson. He was the best player on the floor last night. And hopefully it continues because he deserves every ounce of praise that he's getting this morning. It is outstanding, and I've just had an absolute blast watching him play Halliburton. And this series is going to be incredible. And yeah, I hope it continues to live up to the hype. I hope that Timberwolves Thunder game 2 tonight lives up to the hype because game 1 did not. The first half did, but the second half, the Thunder just kind of imposed their will. We are big Timberwolves fans because the Pacers have a significantly better chance of beating Minnesota in the NBA Finals rather than the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's going to do it here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into my show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Big thank you to Tony East for joining the show. He was great as always. Tomorrow, hopefully we're going to have Zach Gray on because he just doesn't understand Pacers basketball. And I need him to know. I need him to know about this team. So hopefully he's able to join tomorrow. He'll have bets for you as well. Dan Dockett Show comes your way here in about 5 minutes. Jim Jackson set to join the show to open it. So we'll be right back with Jim Jackson and Dan Dockett here on Indy Sports Ticket. Make sure you subscribe to the Indy Sports Ticket YouTube page. Follow me on Twitter __ Jonathan Smith and go subscribe to the My Take Is YouTube page. See ya.